There's a powerful feature inside Claude Code that most people are using completely wrong. In fact, 90% of Claude users don't even know that this feature exists, and it can instantly improve by far the reliability and how powerful your AI agents are. It is called Claude Skills. But here's the problem. Most people misuse them. They install hundreds and thousands of Claude Skills thinking that it would make Claude better. Instead, what it does is it makes your AI agent slower, more chaotic, and even harder to scale. The top 1% do the complete opposite. They build fewer skills, make sure they build them in the right way, and Claude has just released something that makes this even more powerful. A new systematic way to test and improve your Claude skills to make sure that Claude actually calls your skills at the right time. So, in this video, I'll show you exactly what Claude skills are, how to build them the proper way, and how to take advantage of this new feature to make your AI agents 10 times more powerful. So, if you're ready, let's dive in. Awesome. So before we dive into the how, let's make sure that we're both on the same page on what Claude skills are. So in easy terms, Claude skills are basically the recipes that you give to your AI agents for it to know exactly how to accomplish a task in the best way possible. So let's say, for example, you tell your AI agent to build a website. What it does is erase the card, which is the skill, the recipe, and it creates that website the right way every single time. So with Claude skills in Claude Code, what happens is that when you give your AI agent something to do, before it creates any output at all, it first looks for the skills, looks exactly at the step-by-step instruction on how to accomplish that task in the right way, and in turn gives us a better output because it knows exactly how to accomplish that task. Now, there are many things that are tasks that you can do. It could be building a website, it could be maybe writing a LinkedIn post, maybe handling documents, and so on. But the important thing to note is this. With skills, we're able to have the step-by-step instructions, but without them, AI guesses. And that could be very dangerous because we can get inconsistent results. And what that means is that sometimes you could give it a task and it does it good one time, and then the other time it gives us a completely different result, which is not what we were looking for. And when we're building these powerful systems and we want to deploy them, that is not something that we're looking to happen because we always want to be able to predict the outcome with any system that we're deploying. We always want to know what the output could look like, which is what Claude Skills helps us out with. So in the technical context of Claude Code, a skill is basically just a folder with step-by-step instructions on how to accomplish a specific task. And now, if we look at the complete guide to building Claude Skills, a PDF document from Anthropic, a skill is basically just made up of a skill.md file, which is where we have our instructions in Markdown with YAML front matter, which is basically where we have our step-by-step instructions, our recipe on how we want our agent to accomplish that task. And then we also have some other supporting document here, such as the scripts, which is optional, that is executable code. So things like Python, Bash, etc. We have references, which is there's any extra documentation. And then we also have assets, which is templates, fonts, icons, and so on. And this is where you can give examples. For example, maybe this is what you want your output to look like. You can add that as an asset there so Claude has a clear example and template to follow. So you can see the supporting documents are just extra knowledge that helps Claude out. So here we could have, here's what to do, here's the order to do it in, this is what good looks like, and here's what to avoid, which is really cool. Awesome. So just to recap, it starts with you. So you give Claude a task, and then Claude goes on to check if it has a skill that can help accomplish that task. If yes, it then goes on to run that skill and use the resources in there, such as the recipe and the examples, to accomplish that task. And in the end, you have your perfect results, which is really neat. So now, where do we get these skills from? So the three methods I'm about to share with you each have their pros and cons. And I'm going to share something with you that most people and tutorials completely miss out on. So first, we have Anthropic's official skills. So coming over here, we can see this, and this is a really good way to see how good skills are built. So coming over here, if we come into the skill folder, we can see all the skills that Anthropic has provided here, and most of them actually focus on document processing. So, for example, if you want to install one of the skills, you just want to come over here to Claude Code, and over here, you just want to click in there, and you want to type in this command, npx skills add anthropics/skills dash skill PDF. Now, just to break this down so you understand what this command is doing, if we come back to Anthropic's official skills, here we can see that we have the skill folder. And what we're installing right now, the specific skill is this PDF skill over here. So that's exactly what this means when we come here and we see skill. So that is the skill folder, and then we have PDF. Awesome. So there's two things that you have to know when it comes to this point. If you were to install it just like this, that means that you're installing it globally. And what that means is that every single project that you have on Claude Code is going to have access to that skill. So let's say, for example, every single project that you're going to use in Claude Code is going to need maybe document manipulation, transformation, and so on. You then want to install it as a global skill. If not, let's say you have one specific project that you're working on and it's only that project that you're going to need that specific skill for, you want to install it locally. And how you do that is over here, you just want to put a space and you want to click on dash dash and type in local. So when you do that, that will add here into your .claude, and I've already installed this, so you can see all the skills over here. Sweet. So when you click on enter, just make sure that you approve everything and it will install and be good to go. So next we have community marketplaces, and these are things like AITMPL.com, skillsmp.com, and this is really great because you have the ability to actually search by category. Sometimes you have the ability to actually search by your use case, by your role, but you also have to be really careful when using these marketplaces, and I'll touch more about that later on so you understand exactly what I'm talking about. But right now, we can see that we have a lot of skills over here and more adding every single day. But now let's look at how you can actually install them. So coming to AITMPL.com, what you want to do is you want to select the skill. And if you want, you can browse different categories over here. But let's say, for example, I want to go with this canvas design skill. And I click into that. Here you can see everything about the skill, the skill full documentation. So this is basically the recipe. You can see a little snippet of it over here if you wanted to preview. And then where we see code, this is the in-depth, step-by-step recipe that Claude is actually going to read when this skill is called upon. So we have the name and we have the description. So usually when Claude is looking for which skill it should use, it references the name and the description for the skill. So once it reads the description, it's able to tell if this is the skill that it needs to actually accomplish the task. So if you want to install it, same as last time, you just come over here and you want to copy right here. So you click on copy, and then you just want to go back to Claude. You just come over here and paste this in, and you hit enter, and it should be good to go as well. Same with other marketplaces as well. You just want to find where you can copy the actual command to install it, and then you install it and you're good to go. And I'm going to leave the links to this marketplaces down below so you can take a look and actually see the skills that you could add into Claude Code to give you the perfect output when you're doing various things inside of Claude Code. And the third method is building your own custom skills. So creating skills on your own. And the real power sets in because no marketplace skill is going to know your use case as well as you do. It's not going to know exactly what you want to actually accomplish. Or let's say you're doing it for your business, it doesn't know your business as well as you do. And when you actually create your own custom skills, you're able to add into your processes, add your brand voice. So it gives you exactly what you want, which can outperform all the marketplace skills out there and give you the exact perfect output that you're looking for. Now, the secret isn't having 1,000 skills. The secret is having skills that are built the right way and in a proper way that actually gives you quality results, the results that you're actually looking for. Now, there's many ways you can do this, but when you're actually building your own skills, you want to make sure that you actually use the guidelines and the conventions. But I also found this really cool resource that you could actually use to build out skills, and is basically a skill that builds other skills. So Glitter Cowboy created this, and it's tash-cc-resources. And if we come over here to the create agent skills, it's basically a skill that creates other skills. So when you install this, you can actually tell Claude to use this create agent skills to then create a custom skill for you that is actually custom to exactly what you want. So to install this, coming into Claude Code, you just want to type in the command npx skills add glitter cowboy /tash-cc-resources space --skill space create -agent -skills space -agent space Claude -code --yes. And as usual, you want to use --local if you want this to only be in the specific project that you're working on at the moment. So this is what skills are. It's basically a folder, and we can just come over here to this .claude/skills, and we can come into one of them, for example, this PDF skill. And if we come into the skill.md, we can see that it is basically a folder that has a step-by-step instruction, the recipe, and all the resources and knowledge that our agent needs to know to actually accomplish this task in the best way possible to give us the output that we desire. Now, this is just text, so if you ever wanted, you could always edit what is here, take it into a tool like ChatGPT and actually take out some things that might not be relevant to your use case, or maybe adding some things that you might need that maybe this already built skill lacks. But now we've spoken about what skills are, where you can get them from. Now let's actually talk about how it actually works. So usually you don't have to tell Claude to use this particular skill to accomplish this task. Claude is actually able to know what skill it has available to actually use to accomplish a task that you give it to do. So now let's dive into how this actually works. Because what Claude does is that it's not going to load into your whole skill.md file until it knows that it actually has use for that file. And that is something called progressive disclosure. So let's break that down. So here, skills use 3-level system. We have the first level, which is the YAML front matter. We have the second level, which is the skill.md body. And we have the third level, which is the linked files. So in the first level, we have the YAML front matter, and that's basically just the name and description. So let's say you have a lot of skills. What happens is that every single time, all those skills, their name and description is loaded into Claude's system prompts. So Claude already knows that I have access to all these skills and it has its names and descriptions. So whenever it needs to perform a task, it first goes and reads the name and reads the description. And if the task it has to perform actually relates to any of those, it then actually loads all of it into context. If not, it doesn't touch them at all. And then we have the second level, which is the skill.md body. So this is where we see the actual recipe, the step-by-step instructions that we're actually going to use to accomplish the task. So let's say, for example, we have a lot of skills. It reads the name and description. Then Claude is like, okay, I actually need this skill that has this description. Once it identifies that, it actually then loads into the recipe and the step-by-step that it needs to accomplish the task. So let me just show you what that looks like. If we come into Claude Code, here I'm inside the PDF skill. And here at the very top, this is the YAML font matter. So we can see the PDF, the name, and we see the description. So Claude would read this and then know I should use this skill right now. So here we see use this skill whenever the user wants to do anything with PDF files. This includes reading or extracting text or tables from PDFs. So we can see that it would have a very clear idea what is the use for this skill. So after that, once it's like, okay, this is the skill I need, it then loads this whole thing into context, which is the step-by-step instruction on how to perform specific things. So coming back here, we also have a third level layer, which is just additional files. So just like extra resources that Claude could use if it needs. So these are never actually loaded unless Claude actually says, all right, I actually need this. That's when it actually loads in these linked files. So you're basically not pointed to at all until they're actually relevant and until when the skill.md file actually says that they're needed. And this is really important because this progressive disclosure actually minimizes token usage while maintaining specialized expertise. And this is why skills are very powerful and are very scalable in Claude Code, because here you can load thousands of skills, but it doesn't actually overwhelm your AI agent or it doesn't fill up Claude's context window. So even if you have thousands of skills, all Claude does is literally use the YAML front matter, meaning it just reads the name and description, and it has this whole toolkit that it can use at any point to actually accomplish this task. Now, I'm just going to say a little caution here, because even if it has this ability to not actually overwhelm the context window length, doesn't mean that more necessarily means better. So that's just something to keep in mind, and we'll talk more about that as well. So why are skills important? Why should you actually care about them? So right now we've seen that skills actually have the capacity to make your AI agents 10 times better because it improves the performance, because every single time your AI agent knows exactly what to do to get the right output each time. Now, in my opinion, is the people that can actually build customizable skills that actually bring about these correct answers, these right outputs, those people are going to have a massive advantage and they're going to be months ahead. Because imagine this, anyone could go and pick any of those generic, skills and get some form of output. But if you're able to actually build customizable skills, like we've seen, there's so many skills on the marketplace, you could actually find a way to make them tailored in a way that it actually brings about that correct output each time. And let's say, for example, you're an agency and you're building AI agents or AI workflows for clients, and you have these customizable skills. You can actually productize them. For example, you build it once and you're able to deploy it to every single client that you have. Maybe all you need to do is actually tailor it to them, make it more specific to your brand voice, and you can sell it over and over again, and it keeps getting that good, valuable results that we're looking for. And one good skill goes a long way, because as you know, in theory, if you want, you can give your Claude thousands of skills. But what happens if you remember what we spoke about with progressive disclosure, which is basically that Claude only reads the name and description of a skill before it actually picks it up. So if you have a lot of skills and a lot of them are very similar, you just make the picking process from Claude noisier. Because let's say, for example, we have a PDF tool that does this specific thing with PDF, and we have another PDF tool. It then becomes very confusing for Claude to actually determine which PDF tool to use at which time. So in this case, more doesn't mean better. And even in Anthropic's own documentation, it says that there's a 16,000 character limit for the entire available skills list that actually gets loaded into Claude Code. So by loading the 1,000 skills, you're not only taking that valuable context, you're likely going to have crossovers in the descriptions that actually make it very confusing for Claude to pick which skill to use. So now let's talk about how you can test and evaluate your skills. So this is very useful when you start building your own custom skills, because now there is a systemized way to actually test and improve your skills, both old and new skills that are coming in the future. And why this is very important is because we didn't have any systemized way to actually make our skills better. So here we can see the improving skill creator. And this is used to help us test, measure, and refine our agent skills. So as we can see, it helps us now to write evals, run benchmarks, and keep our skills working as the models evolve. And we have two types of skills, and this is very important because it changes what happens in the evals. We have the capability uplift skill, and we have the encoded preference skill. So the capability uplift skill is basically a skill that Claude already kind of knows how to do, but it doesn't do it in the most optimal way possible. So what this capability uplift does is now it lacks specific functionality to make it really good. And then when we actually train it, it actually acquires new competence to give us a better output. So let's say, for example, we have building a website. So right now, Claude could build a website, but it doesn't mean it'd be the best website in the whole world. It just gives you like a bare minimum. But when you actually equip it with a skill, it actually makes that skill better. So it gives it some extra data, some extra step-by-step to actually accomplish that task better. And we also have another example, which is doc creation. And then we have the encoded preference. And this is more so when we're talking about a workflow that is more tailored to you. So maybe there's a specific way that things are done within your business, or there's a specific way that your team wants to handle specific things. That is where encoded preference comes from. And here we have some examples like financial reporting. So let's say there's a specific template that you want your financial reports to look like. That's where that comes in. Or maybe a custom workflow that you developed yourself to actually use within your team. So as we can see, the capability uplift skills help Claude do something the base model either can't do at all or can't do consistently. And then we have the encoded preference skills, which is more so workflows where Claude could actually do each piece, but then you want it to be actually tailored to your team's specific processes. So now let's actually talk about the differences in the evals. So first we have catching regressions in quality. So now let's talk about when we're talking about the capability uplift skill. So for example, we have building a website. So right now, Claude could build a website, but it might not be the best website ever. It might just be, a mediocre website. And when you actually give it a skill, it's able to build a really nice website. But right now we have Opus 4.6. So let's say, for example, a new model comes out and that model could actually build really good websites. So let's say your skill, for example, And compared to that model, the model could be way better at your skill at building the websites. So if your skill is still being used to build a website, then your skill actually produces lower quality websites. So that's basically what this catches. It just catches when, the model that exists right now is actually better than the skill that you have. So just helping you know when general model capabilities have outgrown your skill. So then you know to either upgrade your skill or just use the model by itself, because the model could always get better and actually know how to perform that skill very well by itself. Now, when we're talking about the other skills, which is the encoded preferences, where this actually comes in is that the evaluation always makes sure that the skill that you have actually works in line to what you're expecting that skill to do. So just always making sure that it goes through the step-by-step processes that you needed to actually go to then achieve the final results that you're looking for. And to install that, you just want to come over here to Claude Code and you want to search /plugins. You hit on enter, and here you want to search for skill creator. So I'll just type that in and we can see it over here. And you select that. Awesome. And that is it. Everything that you need to know about Claude Skills. And now you've seen how Claude Skills can be used to make your agentic workflows and builds in Claude Codes 10 times more powerful. Now, if you want access to the resources that I shared here today or more resources on Claude Skills, feel free to check out my free school community. In there, you can get access to all of these. And in future videos, I'll be talking more about more powerful builds in Claude Code. So hopefully I'll see you there. Until next time, peace.